Hey everyone, let's talk about season 1 of The Vampire Diaries. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching my crazy reviews for the first season. I just really appreciate all your comments, and it's been a lot more fun than I thought it would be. So, yeah, I'm having a blast, and thank you, everybody. And the other thing that I want to mention real quick is that this is not the first time I have recorded this season 1 wrap up. Whew, I've had some technical problems. Some of it is user error, I'll admit. But yeah, I've been having some technical problems. I bought a new mic, which is what you're listening to now, but I've had some issues with it. So I'm going to try this again. But I wanted to kind of do something sort of fancy for the season 1 wrap up. And I was trying some fancy editing and it's not gonna happen. I'm sorry guys. It's just not gonna happen. Not this time. So we're gonna do this real basic. So the thing about first seasons in general is that shows either start out really strong from the first season, and often they kind of peter out after the first season, and sometimes they start out pretty slow and pick up steam later. And that's definitely the case, in my opinion, for season 1 of The Vampire Diaries. I'll be honest, the first half of the first season is not great. You know, there's some good stuff in there for sure, but it's pretty slow. They do a very good job of setting up the rules of the universe, the rules of vampirism and that sort of thing. They do a good job with that, but I don't know that they do the best job setting up any kind of conflict or setting up the characters or anything. You know, the best thing that they do, the best thing about this show so far is Damon. I mean, let's be honest. He is such a rock star. And if it weren't for Damon, I would not have continued past the first couple of episodes. I mean, he really is the rock star of the first season, and he's the thing that kept me coming back, honestly. So I feel like in my mind, I kind of divide the first season into two sections, and it really is right down the middle, basically. I feel like episode 10, the turning point, was literally a turning point for me. And it's not because that whole episode is so fantastic, but the ending was the first time that I felt really engaged in the show, and not just, with Damon. Like, it was the first time I felt really engaged with the plot, and I wanted to press record on the next episode immediately. Like, I wanted to know what was going to happen, because they leave us with this great cliffhanger with Elena hitting that vampire, and it's like, what the hell is going on? Who is this person? Who is this new vampire that she hit? And I felt like for the first time, it felt like the plot really started to kick in. And then, kind of unfortunately, the next episode, they really grind all that momentum to a halt. But I'm not mad about it, because episode 11 is a great episode. So, I can't be mad about it, but at the same time, they built up this great momentum with that cliffhanger with episode 10, and then they just slammed the brakes on it. But we have this great road trip episode, and that's cool. And then I thought, okay, now we're back in Mystic Falls. We're going to finally, figure out what's going on with this new vampire. And they wrap it up way too quickly. We find out that the new vampire has absolutely no motivation, and he's just really pretty lame. The visuals that they did with that, and I can't even remember that vampire's name. I mean, that's how little of an impression he made. But some of the visuals that they did with him stalking Elena, those were well done. But besides that, the story was kind of pointless. He didn't add anything. He gave us a little bit of information, but it wasn't information that we couldn't have found out some other way. So yeah, they just kill him off in the next episode, and you can see that whole plot line was completely pointless, and it was only there, that cliffhanger was only actually there to separate Damon and Elena, to get them together for an episode, which again, I'm not mad about it because it was a great episode. But when you can see that the writers, like, that's all that they were trying to do was just get Damon and Elena separated, to get them together for an episode and separated from everybody else, and they didn't actually have any greater story purpose for this new vampire, it's kind of weak. For me, it's episode 14 that the show really kicks into high gear, and I actually feel invested in the story. I feel invested in the characters and in the plot lines that we have going on at that point, and it just continues to get better from that point. So for me, the show really kicked into gear and really got interesting starting with episode 14, and I feel like it finished really, really strong. I feel like the first season really finished with a bang. Basically, my favorite episodes from the first season, in no particular order, I would have to rewatch all of them if I was really gonna put them in order, but in no particular order, I would say my favorite episodes would be 11, 14, 19, 20, and 22. Those would be my top 5, with an honorable mention to episode 8 because of Lexi, of course. But yeah, and you can see that those are all all in the second half of the season. So, but episode 11 was really great. I mean, not much happened. It was really pretty pointless overall. I mean, you can see that the only reason that the writers separated Damon and Elena, like the only reason why we had this episode was to just get Damon and Elena separate from everybody else. But it was very well done, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy their chemistry. I mean, I don't want to repeat myself too much in this season 1 wrap up. I don't want to repeat the things that I've said over and over and over again throughout the first 22 episodes. But obviously, I loved Elena and I love their chemistry. And so episode 11 was just a lot of fun. Episode 14, like I said, that's when the show just really kicked into high gear. We opened the tomb. I feel like I got invested in the plot lines that were going on at that point. And I feel like Damon started to show some real vulnerability in that episode with, him being so devastated over the fact that Catherine wasn't in the tomb. Episode 19 is fantastic, not just because we have a wonderful Delena moment with the dance, which I loved, but also because we go a little bit deeper into Stefan. I feel like even by the end of the season, I feel like I didn't know Stefan as well as the other characters. And so this was the first time, episode 19 was the first time that we really got some insight into Stefan, and I really enjoyed the actor's performance so much. I thought it was a fantastic performance. I love that you could see how much Damon loved his brother and how much, he tried to help him. I feel like the show is really at its best when it focuses on the relationship between the brothers. And that's really why I loved episode 20 as well, because we get it's kind of like a just an info dump episode, but it was information that we desperately needed. We needed to know more backstory about why these brothers are at odds with each other. I just thought that it was so well done. I thought the flashbacks were really great, and I just really, really enjoyed that episode. And then the finale was fantastic. The finale, you can see how much Damon has evolved from the first episode. I mean, it's like night and day, although he's still entertaining as hell. He's really allowing some of his humanity to come through. And I absolutely loved his apology to Jeremy for what he did to Vicky, and him offering to take Jeremy's suffering away was amazing. And then of course we have that fantastic ending with, him kissing Elena. Of course, it's not Elena, but we think it's Elena in the moment. And that fake out is done so well because when I watched that scene, which I did rewatch a few times, for research. But when you rewatch it, it plays both ways. When you think that it's Elena, everything that she says and everything that she does makes sense for Elena. It makes sense for Elena's character. But then when you rewatch it and you know that it's Catherine, it still makes sense. And so I love that so much. I love a good fake out, a well done fake out. And this was superbly done. I loved everything about it. I loved the kiss. I loved his speech to her, when he's telling her that he came into this town wanting to destroy it and now he finds himself wanting to protect it. And I just love everything about that. And then, of course, we get this huge twist that, oh, it's Catherine. It's not Elena. And she kills John or, potentially kills John. I don't know if he's actually going to survive or not. But I feel like, that was just such a great way to end the season. I just thought that was just a fantastic climax to the first season. So great episode. And as a matter of fact, I said that that list wasn't in any particular order, but honestly, I feel like that would be the order. I think that 11, 14, 19, 20, and 22, that would be the order of my top 5 right there. So there you go. Yeah, it just kept getting better and better, and I enjoyed it so much. Now let's talk about the characters. So let's start with the tertiary characters. So Matt, I don't really have a lot to say about Matt. He seems nice. He seems like a good guy. And I feel sorry for him because he seems like he has a pretty difficult home life. But he's also kind of, I don't want to say boring. I realize that this is the first season, so he could become one of the best characters on the show. But he didn't really have a lot to do, so I really just don't have much to say about him, to be honest. His mom is a real piece of work, so I don't know. We'll see if she gets her act together or bails again next season. But, honestly, I'm not really interested in that storyline either. Vicky was a very tragic character. I wish that I could have felt more for her, but she was just so annoying to me, and she made me very tired. So I do feel for her. I felt a lot of compassion for her, but I did not enjoy the character, so I was happy to see her go, honestly. It looks like Tyler is going to be getting more focus. My guess is that he's a werewolf, and maybe that explains his utter assholery this season. I thought that was explained when we saw what a dick his dad was, but it seems like that might have only been part of it. And it doesn't seem like he knows what he is or what's going on with him. So that makes me think that either he's something other than a werewolf or that his wolfiness is genetic or something and hasn't presented yet. But maybe we'll find out that he knew all along and he's been dealing with it this whole time. So I don't know, but I'm glad that he's going to be getting some more development because in the first season, Tyler is just a one-dimensional asshole and really annoyed me. And I get that that's what he was there to do. But you can have a, kind of an asshole character, but you can still give them a little bit more depth. And he had no depth. He was just a completely one-dimensional character. And I just don't have any interest in that. So I'm intrigued about where they're going to take that character. To me, it feels like either develop a character or get them off my screen. Really, I don't want to waste any time with a character that is just flat and doesn't add anything to the story. I like Jenna. She seems sweet. She seems like she's trying to do a good job raising these teenagers. It was not a job that she was expecting to have. And I hope that she's let in on the secret soon because, that's not very fair. It feels like she should know. But yeah, we don't really develop her either. We don't really spend a lot of time with her. So I don't really feel like I know who she is as a person. And consequently, I don't really care much. So hopefully, she will get more development next season. So let's move on to the secondary characters. Jeremy was incredibly annoying to me in the beginning, but I grew to care about him fairly quickly. He's had to he's had to deal with a lot this season. The death of his parents and the deaths of both of the girls that he cared about, Vicky and Anna. He found out that vampires exist, and his sister, whom he trusted, had been, keeping all this stuff from him and had his memory erased. So he's had to really deal with a lot. And, I can understand why he tells her to go to hell in Founders Day. Because, we as the audience, we're sympathetic to Elena because we've seen all of this through her eyes and we understand why she made the choices that she did. But Jeremy has every right to be pissed at her. I don't think he'll be successful in vamping himself, but it's really sad when you think about how far he'd come this season. He starts out a complete mess, gets his act together with the help of Damon erasing his memory, and then he really starts to mature throughout the season. And now with this suicide attempt, it feels a bit like we're back at square one. But I don't actually think so. I think he'll probably get over everything that's happened. But I have absolutely no idea what they'll do with that character next season. Bonnie. Bonnie has me nervous. I've liked her really from the pilot, but as soon as her witchy powers started to present, I had a bad feeling that she was headed down a dark path. I wish we could have seen more of her. That's actually my main complaint for the entire season, that we didn't get enough of Bonnie's story. But I predicted pretty early that Grams would be killed off, and that would potentially lead Bonnie down a dark path. And now maybe her lying to Elena about removing the spell is the beginning of that arc, or maybe that's as bad as it's going to get. I don't know. Especially when she finds out that Caroline almost died because of her, indirectly, but still. The fact that she didn't seem to feel much remorse for the lie is a bad sign, especially considering the talk she has with Stefan at the very end of Founders Day. She also worries me because of that line she had in, I think it was episode 13, or right before she was kidnapped. She says, "Elena's like my sister. I would die for her." Now, I know that line was there to prompt Ben to kidnap her to use as leverage against Elena. Although using Bonnie to get to Elena seemed like the plan to begin with. But I've never forgotten that line. And now, I don't know how big this show is on foreshadowing, so maybe I'm reading too much into it. But if Bonnie ends up dying for Elena, all I have to say is that it better fucking be worth it. Caroline didn't seem to change at all this season. At the very beginning, like just in the pilot, I thought she was going to be our mean girl, but she's not. And, then I felt incredibly sorry for her with everything Damon was doing to her, and just because of how everyone else was treating her. She tries so hard, but she has no self-esteem, and it's really sad to see. She's obviously smart and beautiful and capable, so having her be insecure was unexpected, and probably a better choice story-wise than just having her be the generic mean girl. But she really didn't seem to grow or change at all this season. It was nice seeing her win Miss Mystic Falls. She definitely deserved it. I'm expecting her to survive the car accident, but I really don't know what to expect from her character next season. Alaric has become one of my favorites, particularly whenever he's paired up with Damon. I feel like he's just a genuinely good guy, and I love that we have, a vampire hunter. I love his chemistry with Damon, and I hope that he becomes an even larger part of the show next season because I enjoy any time he's on screen. I'm really glad that we kind of wrapped up that storyline with Isabel, and hopefully he'll be able to move on. And but I don't know what they'll do with his character beyond that. Hopefully he doesn't leave, because that story is wrapped up. Hopefully he stays in Mystic Falls, because that would be a shame if this is the last that we see of Alaric. So hopefully, he just becomes part of the group, and he sticks around for the rest of the series, because I absolutely love him. He's such a sweetheart, and I enjoy his character so much. Elena, I like a lot. I'll be perfectly honest, I was expecting to not like her. I was expecting her to be like Bella Swan, and I was prepared to hate her, but I actually really like her. I feel like she makes smart decisions most of the time, and I feel like she asks the right questions. That always annoys me in fiction, when characters don't ask realistic questions, or they don't ask any questions at all. And I feel like she asks the right questions. I feel like she has a good head on her shoulders, and obviously she does have feelings for Damon, but I'm glad that she is not she's very open and honest with Damon, like in terms of her feelings. She's not leading him on or anything like that. I appreciate that she's not trying to play the brothers against each other, but she's genuinely going to be a friend for Damon, and I love that so much. I wish that she was not so forgiving of Stefan and some of the things, that he's done. I was disappointed at the end of, I guess it was episode 11, when she gets back from her road trip with Damon, and she goes to Stefan and she talks to him, and she finds out that she was adopted, and all these things that Stefan's been keeping from her. And then by the end of the episode, they're just making out, and I felt like I wanted her to call him out more for some of the creepy stalking. But overall, I really do like Elena, and I look forward to seeing where they're gonna take her character. Stefan, I definitely have the most complicated feelings about Stefan. And I talked about this in depth in my review for episode 19, so I'm not going to repeat myself here, but Stefan is a complicated dude. He definitely thinks of himself as a good guy, as the good brother. But as I said in episode 19, I think that there's some stuff in his backstory that would maybe contradict that. And we find out later I think we find out in episode 20 that, he forced Damon to turn. And, obviously there's a lot more going on with Stefan. There's a lot more in his backstory that, we have not even begun to touch on, because I feel like he's got a lot of skeletons in his closet. I like how complicated Stefan is. I really do like Stefan as a character. In the beginning, I got just mad Edward Cullen vibes from him for the first 5, 6, 7 episodes for sure. It might have started turning around maybe with Lexi. I can't remember what episode, but Matt says to him, he appears to be like the kind of guy that has everything, and he's got everything all figured out, and he's all put together. And Stefan says, "Is that how I come off? What a dick." And I loved that exchange, because it really showed a lot of self-awareness on Stefan's part. And that is how he comes off, particularly in the early episodes. He just was not interesting. But once we got into his bloodlust, his blood addiction, then we started to add a little bit more layers to that character, and he's starting to get more interesting. And I'm probably the most interested in Stefan as a character, in unfolding his backstory. I'm the most interested in learning who he really is, because I don't think that the persona that he projects is that it feels like it's a performance, like a controlled performance. And I just want to know more about who Stefan really is. And I want, again, I mentioned this in my reviews, but I want to learn more about Stefan's backstory that is more recent, not back in 1864, but stuff that's happened more recently. But I feel like Stefan does have good intentions, and he thinks of himself as a good guy. He wants to be a good guy. He wants to do the right thing. But the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So, like I said, I am the most interested in unraveling Stefan's character. And now we have arrived at Damon. I fucking love him. I don't have much else to say about Damon other than the fact that I fucking love him. He has very, very quickly become one of my favorite characters ever. Like, ever. He's just so much fun. I love him when he's bad. I love him wreaking havoc. I love his humor. I love how he delights in getting under Stefan's skin. I just really fucking love that character. And he has chemistry with everybody. He's just one of those people who are so charismatic that he has chemistry with absolutely everybody. And he just pops on screen. I absolutely love him. And the thing that I love the most about any character, the thing that I need in order to care about any character, I need that character to have vulnerability. And Damon, I love that he has so much vulnerability, but he keeps it hidden, but, kind of not very well, because you can see all that vulnerability is deep down in there. His humanity is deep down inside of him, and he just, he wants to keep that hidden from everybody, but it's actually pretty obvious that it's there. So he's really not fooling anybody. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with that character. I love a good redemption arc more than anything, and I love a good love triangle. Those are like my two favorite things ever. But I had a lot of reservations because I could tell from the very, very beginning of this show, like from the first episode or, maybe first couple of episodes, it was clear Damon was headed for a redemption arc and that Damon and Stefan and Elena were going to be involved in a love triangle. You could see the writing on the wall. And as much as I love redemption arcs and as much as I love love triangles, I feel like the best instances of those storylines is when they happen organically, when a character is introduced and they were never intended to have a redemption arc, but it happens over the course of the storytelling. Or when you have characters who end up in a love triangle, it's unexpected, but it just happens organically because of the chemistry between the characters and between the actors. But when you have those elements baked into a show, as it so clearly is in the Vampire Diaries, I was very, very concerned because that can lend itself to really lazy storytelling. And so I was afraid very early on that Damon's redemption arc would be very lazy, that he would be evil 1 minute and then the next thing you know, oh, Damon's good now and he's redeemed, but he didn't really earn that redemption. And also, I was afraid that they would jump the gun with the love triangle and there wouldn't be a proper amount of buildup, because why would Elena fall for this character who is, so reprehensible in the beginning? I had a lot of reservations. I was really concerned about how those storylines would play out. Honestly, as much as I do love Damon's evolution in the first season, I would have preferred that he didn't make quite so much progress. That's the weird thing about watching this show after the fact. Because I know that it goes on for 8 seasons, I think, okay, so is Damon just an antagonist in season 1 and then he's good for 7 seasons? Because that doesn't sound like as much fun to me than if he was an antagonist for the first half of the show, for the first 2, 3, 4 seasons. And then, but very, very slowly, he starts to redeem himself. And we have, this nice, long, drawn out redemption arc that feels earned. Because that's the thing, it has to be earned. We don't want to just flip a switch and say, oh, Damon's good now. No. And so, on the one hand, I really appreciate the turn that he's made by the end of the first season. On the other hand, my preference would actually be for it to last a little bit longer. Now, perhaps we'll have some backslides and it won't just be that Damon's a hero now. Hopefully, as well, this doesn't mean that they change his personality, because I love how deliciously antagonistic he is. So I hope that they don't just turn him into a hero, because that would be boring. So I want to have a lot of layers with Damon, and I just want to keep adding those layers and adding more dimension. And I am cautiously optimistic because I feel like I love this character so much already that there's this really high chance that they're going to ruin him for me. It's so stupid, but like that's how I feel. Like I already love him so much. I'm scared that the writing for him will not continue at this level. All right, guys, I think that's all I've got to say about the first season of The Vampire Diaries. I hope this was good. I really do. I tried really hard to make this something special, and it's just really not going to work out that way. So, yeah, I'll be back on April 21st for my first ever reaction video to season 2, episode 1. I'm pretty excited, but kind of nervous too. So, hopefully, that will go okay. Never done anything like that before, so that's gonna be an experience. But you guys asked me to do it, and so I'm really excited to give it a shot, and hopefully you guys like it. So okay, thanks so much if you're still listening to me yammer on. Thank you so much, and I will catch you later.